Hey everyone, Reed here at Big Strong Book, and here today to talk about something a little bit different. Certainly, well, maybe peripherally book related, but not explicitly. I heard the news today that Amazon MGM has acquired full creative control over the James Bond franchise, essentially purchasing the rights from Barbara Broccoli, Michael G. Wilson, the Eon Productions family, because it very much so is a family affair. And now Amazon, through their, Amazon acquired MGM a while back, and now they have full control. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned on the channel before, but I am a huge Bond fan ever since I was a kid. My first exposure to the series began probably with the GoldenEye 007 Nintendo 64 game, and then through that, I then got into the films. You Only Live Twice with Sean Connery was I think that was the first that I ever saw, and then shortly after that, I remember watching Goldfinger, Thunderball, GoldenEye, and then later on, I eventually, by the time I was, yeah, so I started getting into the series, I think it was around 2008, so around the time that Quantum of Solace came out, and by over the course of about 2 years, so I would have been around 10 or so. Over the course of like 2 years, just as a kid, I had that. By that point, I had seen all 22 Bond films, and then of course saw Skyfall, Spectre, and No Time to Die in theaters when those were released. And again, it's been something that for what it was something that just absolutely clicked with me in a way that other franchises hadn't still. I think I was just, right place, right time, right age, and it just appealed to my interests. I mean, what, boy growing up is going to watch James Bond? And I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of, kids my age that would have seen the Bond movies and just not liked them at all. But yeah, it's been a franchise that my love for it, my appreciation for it has really deepened over time. I even as a kid, I met Richard Kiel, who played Jaws in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, and that was a special moment. But I go back and forth, kind of, what films I've loved. Last year, I started to watch, to rewatch all of them again. Of course, I have seen all 25 of them numerous times. But just wanted to do like a concerted, starting from Dr. No and kind of going week by week. I would just watch another one. I only got about halfway through, and I stopped around Octopussy, I think. So I still have 13 more to go, and I'll probably, now with this news, I'll probably kick that back up. So at the very least, last year I rewatched Dr. No to For Your Eyes Only. And I had I'd always loved From Russia with Love, but I had a renewed appreciation for it. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was always kind of hit or miss with me, but mainly miss, I loved it after watching it again. And then regarding the most recent Bond film, No Time to Die, I had always liked No Time to Die, liked it when I first saw it, understanding that, with I guess the true finality, I'll just say that movie had, didn't sit right with some people, and just in general, like the pacing of that movie, it's very long. It's in creative decisions and writing, I get that didn't sit right. It was a movie that I liked. I mean, it didn't feel like a Bond film in many respects, but it still hit the right beats for me. That movie has a lot more weight now. The especially the ending, which is it is in some ways kind of fitting, and in other ways just kind of sad. So mainly the reason why I think I am, and why from what I can gather, it seems like a lot of fellow Bond fans feel disheartened by the news, is just because, we've seen how this plays out before when you have major franchises where creative control shifts from its original creators to, not to deny that it was a corporate franchise in its own right, but when it gets taken over by an even bigger corporation with purely corporate interests and dollars and cents and profit lines, and what seems to be the philosophy nowadays of major corporations when they acquire a beloved franchises, a big IP, is to just saturate the market with as much content as possible. So as many movies, as many spin-off movies, as many animated series, as many spin-off TV series, as many just reality shows, or there's so many different ways they want to just diversify with as much content as possible, trying to, I think, milk franchises and maximize profit from them, while at the same time kind of driving them into the ground in the process of just literally milking them dry, unfortunately. I was a Star Wars fan growing up, and still have deep love for the George Lucas side of it, and as well as the expanded universe, the Star Wars EU novels pre Disney takeover. And I remember as a young teenager at the time that when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, I remember being optimistic, excited, I think, that I would finally get to see a Star Wars movie in theaters. I'd been alive at least for the prequels, but I just wasn't of an age, I think, to see them in theaters. But I remember being excited, but then a little bit of a part of me was like, okay, but it's Disney. What is this going to look like? Even when I was 12 or 13 or however old I was when that sale happened. And of course, that was even a few years before Force Awakens ended up coming out. But we've seen what Star Wars has become in large part. Sure, there are good moments here and there from the Disney produced stuff, but I think for me in particular, it's been with that, it was so much that I just checked out. And Mandalorian, I watched a few episodes of, but I haven't watched anything else. And I haven't had a desire to watch anything else. I think just because there's so much so quickly, and it isn't the greatest quality, that I just haven't bothered. We've even seen, franchises like, maybe you could point to Star Trek as just, I think, fundamental differences in how the kind of new overseers see what Star Trek at its core is about. Fundamental differences. And even, granted, Marvel has kind of been under the guise of, Feige and Disney pretty much for almost the entirety of, its mainstay in the cultural gaze. But even then, I think, the advent of Disney Plus in particular with Marvel, and kind of post Endgame, when we saw this deluge of content, and it becomes a case of diminishing returns. Whereas I even thought at the time, like, wouldn't it be interesting if Marvel stopped for a while after Endgame? Maybe even like 5 to 10 years, even though that might seem insane, but 5 to 10 years of nothing. Creating hype, anticipation, creating demand, and having enough time to work out an actionable plan for how to meet that demand and satisfy fans. So again, we've seen this kind of crashing and burning with Star Wars. Lord of the Rings even, with Amazon acquiring Lord of the Rings, I haven't watched Rings of Power, and I don't have a desire to watch it. I just, I feel like by now I've learned my lesson. And this is unfortunately, I think, a matter of fool me once, fool me twice, and I've already been fooled twice, more than that probably. And again, I'm not saying now, but I'm not going into it with, unfortunately, any expectations. The way I can see it is with Amazon acquiring, it is very much so like a corporation taking over a family business. For the most part, the Bond films, it was Albert Cubby Broccoli along with Harry Saltzman at the beginning, and then he kind of was the sole producer. And then once he got near the end of his life, then he kind of passed the reins onto his daughter, and I think Barbara Broccoli, and then Michael G. Wilson, who I believe was his stepson. So he passed along control of the franchise to his daughter and stepson, and they took the franchise in a new but an exciting direction, with GoldenEye being the first that was kind of under in their care. And of course, the franchise, even with Cubby Broccoli at the helm, it's had its ups and downs. It's had its clunkers and its stinkers here and there. Like Diamonds Are Forever, the Man with the Golden Gun. Sorry if those are some of your favorites. I those did not land well with me on a rewatch. But it is still Bond, and there's no denying that. Even though it's not the greatest quality, it's still Bond. And I think with Star Wars in particular, one thing I noticed was it didn't fundamentally feel like Star Wars anymore. There was something missing. Even the prequels, for all their faults, felt like Star Wars. I think because it had the intentions of the originator at the helm. In that case, George Lucas. So what I fear with James Bond now being in the control of Amazon is what we've seen with all these major franchises is they're just going to flood the waters with as much crap as possible. Q's going to get a spinoff show, and Moneypenny, and M, and Blofeld, and all these, they're all going to get their just, 3-season long TV shows where we go into, these characters aren't meant to, we're not meant to, and then you take away focus from James Bond. And James Bond for me it's been an event. It's been seeing how the movies evolve over time, and that's been exciting. And I was excited to see where they would take the franchise post Daniel Craig. And maybe the only good to be gleaned from this is that there will be a seventh Bond to take the helm. But will those be theatrical movies? Will they be straight to streaming? That just feels so wrong. And okay, again, I'll admit, I'm disheartened. I am not super hopeful. At the very least, we have our 25 movies. We have closure. We have an ending, actually, like a pretty final ending to the Craig films, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I would love more. I've been looking forward to Bond 26 for a while now, and I'm pretty sure No Time to Die ended with the classic James Bond will return. It will return, but in what form and in what manner? I'm not somebody to harp on the identity politics side of it. I'm somebody who I just want the writing to be good. I want the product to be good and to have feeling and to have meaning. And that's the part that I'm most worried about, just being kind of taken over by talking heads and corporate think tanks, and just diluting it in the means of just trying to pump as much content out as possible. That's what I fear. Again, I could be wrong. I could be proven wrong, and they could stick. Maybe I think TV series are unavoidable. but I could be proven wrong, and they could just do like one or two TV series that are good. I probably won't watch those, but they could stick to the theatrical bond and having one movie maybe at most or at least every 3 years or so. And they're of a good solid quality. And I would be happy to, however long from now, come back on this channel and say, you know what? My fears were cast aside. I was reassured, and it looks like I've been proven wrong. And I'd love to come back and say that. It's just, again, we've seen this song and dance before with however many franchises. So, I hope that they stick to a theatrical bond, theatrical release of big, great Bond movies that we've known to come and love and expect. And I just hope that they wouldn't, that they would give the franchise, the writers and the directors and everybody, they would hand the franchise to able uh, individuals who themselves understand the franchise, and maybe they can come from to it with a fan's perspective. Maybe they're not fans. I mean, they don't have to be a fan of the series to produce something that is good and that stands the test of time. Again, that's my fear. So I may be proved right. I may be proved wrong. Maybe the answer is somewhere in the middle. But again, it's a little bit sad because I've been looking forward to more. And if this is the more is Amazon's James Bond, it's just, I have a little bit of trepidation. So we'll see. All right. Well, see you guys next time.